Welcome to a 13 News special program. Veterans Voices, honoring those who serve. Now, here's Amanda Barron.
Hello and welcome to Veterans Voices. I'm Amanda Barron. Over the next half hour, we hope to inspire you with the stories of the people who've helped to shape our nation and those who are working to say thank you to the men and women who've given so very much. Often we hear of civilians doing just that, finding ways to say thanks. But we begin with the story of a veteran and his wife, two people who used their free time to continually say thanks. Their deep gratitude stems from a tragic night that changed their lives forever. Showing gratitude.
How many people have been with us twice?
Doesn't always have to involve saying thanks. For Woody and Janet Arentz, it's a way of life.
Who was in Afghanistan and Iraq. And he had friends, he was a medic, and he had friends who died in his arms. And he had pretty significant PTSD because, as you can imagine.
But when he got out of that raft, at the end of that rafting trip, it was like a different person.
Just to see them smile is our criteria.
Smiles that come courtesy of Woody and Janet's Labor of Love. Their nonprofit, Gathering of Mountain Eagles, exists to bring peace to the hearts and minds of veterans. Is it the adventure? Is it the outdoors?
It's being together, it's pulling together, because you don't go, for example, on a whitewater rafting trip. You are not there as an individual. You are part of a team.
As an Army veteran himself, Woody knows that feeling is key.
And there is
4 times a year, this military family creates challenges in the air, on the water, down the mountains, and everywhere in between to create those moments for people who share a common bond. All the veterans have to do is show up. I feel like it's a perpetual thank you note.
It is. It is. Well, see, the thing is, you can't really thank all the people who helped us, and there were hundreds. I mean, the military community was fabulous.
Woody and Janet are so passionate about helping others with post-traumatic stress disorder because they lived it before it became a common term. Take me back to the night of that crash.
Well, Carrie had gone on a trip to Kings Island Amusement Park with a church group. That night on the interstate, someone had chosen to drink to excess.
Nearly 4 decades later, what happened that night in Carrollton, Kentucky is still the deadliest DUI crash in our nation's history. Their 14-year-old daughter, Carrie, survived.
Apparently she passed out in the seat. And she came to after she had a dream, if you will. And a voice came to her and said, "Get up and get out. You're not going to die on this bus." And so she was the last one off the bus before it exploded. She fell out of the bus because she was actually on, her back was on fire.
27 people died. 24 were children.
Carrie was my first experience with someone who was suffering severe post-traumatic stress. Why, she had a lot of survivor's guilt. Why did I live? Why did my friend who invited me die?
For nearly 10 days, doctors tried to save her leg, but the risks were too great.
And a couple months later, I couldn't even get out of bed. I kept going, what is wrong with me, you know? But PTSD makes you not want to do anything, nothing, just exist. The next step is suicide.
So with that understanding, and a daughter that beat the odds and is now approaching her 50th birthday, they live to serve those who serve. Gathering of Mountain Eagles will host its winter event February 1st at Canaan Valley Resort. If you know a veteran who'd like to participate or you'd like to help sponsor, head to our website, WOWKTV.com. Coming up, a hero's son is sharing his love and appreciation to not only his father, but all those who paved the way to freedom before him. The very special mission to remember is coming up next. This year marked a milestone for the turning point of World War II. It's been 80 years since troops stormed the beaches at Normandy, and we're reminded this year of how fewer and fewer veterans are alive to share those stories. Pat Simon spoke with one man who's working to ensure his father's legacy on that day is never forgotten.
Kim Carmine is taking us back in time.
I just call it my World War II room.
This entire room of his home
I got those in Normandy.
is dedicated to the greatest generation who saved the world 80 years ago.
They were ordinary people just like you and I, but they were tasked to do extraordinary things, and they did.
All of what you see here
This is gold.
are momentous mementos,
Sand,
a unique collection
Omaha Beach.
that he started after the greatest hero in his life, his father, died in 2005.
Dad passed, he was 82, but he didn't share much of anything.
So to make up for lost time, Kim began an intense search to finally tell the untold story
That's the plane.
about a 21-year-old crew chief named Cletus Carmine, who was aboard a C-47 transport plane carrying American paratroopers, launching the most important turning point of World War II, D-Day.
Just to know he was in that plane that very day, it was incredibly overwhelming.
A Google search led Kim to Michael Ingrasano, the author of this book, Valor Without Arms, detailing the history of his father's unit, the 316th Troop Carrier Group. Turns out, Ingrasano was Tech Sergeant Cletus Carmine's combat radio operator during that historic Allied invasion.
He says, I can't believe you're Cleet's son. And I says, I can't believe you knew my dad.
What's more, Kim attended what became the final reunion of the 316th, where he met Ingrasano, pictured on the left, and D-Day pilot William Printable on the right. It was that unexpected meeting that propelled Kim to one more discovery, the actual plane that carried his father over Normandy on June 6, 1944.
I was sobbing. I mean, I had tears in my eyes and we had to pause.
Kim reliving that moment from 12 years ago, a trip that he took with his wife Kate to Hurlburt Field in Florida, to not only see that combat plane in person, but also feel his father's presence.
There was a picture of me reaching up and touching the propeller. And as emotional of a day it was one of the most incredible and rewarding things I've ever done in my entire life.
And since then,
we've been to 6 overseas cemeteries.
Kim's crusade to honor sacrifice
It just means that much to me.
keeps piling up in this room.
I'm doing my part to recognize them and remember.
Remember, not only his father, but also what's left of a generation of heroes who will soon be gone too, leaving behind legacies worth preserving, only if we take the time to listen.
We have their history, we have their memories, and we have us. We have to keep telling the story.
160,000 Allied troops landed in Normandy on June 6, 1944. 73,000 of them were Americans. 2,500 were killed. The youngest of the living survivors today, now in their 90s. This coming year, we'll learn more about the plans the state of West Virginia has to create a statue of Woody Williams that will go in Statutory Hall in our nation's capital. Williams was given the Medal of Honor for his heroic actions during the Battle of Iwo Jima. He was the last recipient from World War II when he died in 2022. Now, each state in the nation is allowed 2 statues on Capitol Hill, and this year, lawmakers approved a resolution to give Williams this honor. He will replace former U.S. Senator from West Virginia, John Kenna, and the namesake for Jackson County. There are 24 mournful notes that we all recognize as military taps. The bugle call is a signal for lights out, and it dates back to the American Civil War. One man taught himself the solemn tune, and he plays it and shares it daily as a way to say thank you to those who died for our freedom.
That first note is a mood changer. And I have to practice. I have to keep getting better.
When the rest of the world is just waking up, this is the typical start to Ron Stewart's morning. While the birds sing their own songs, he practices 1, 2. Almost every day, he begins with a warm-up before venturing on to that first note. Ron has been practicing taps for the veterans buried at Sharon Memorial Park Cemetery for the last 2.5 years.
I was running through. I was going down to South Park or something.
It all started.
Now, how did I see this grave marker?
After a random stop.
Purple Heart and a Bronze Star.
At the grave of Corporal Donnie Fur. He was killed in Vietnam around the same time Ron tried to enlist in the Army.
So at 19, his life ended. Mine went on, it just, it got me.
40-some years later, this is his service. He never went to Vietnam. His doctor, who was against the war, wrote a letter that put him in the unworthy to serve category. With Donnie in his heart, he taught himself the bugle.
I thought, I can do that.
He's played more than 1,000 different funerals and remembers them all from his most recent.
101 years old, 103 years old.
To his first.
To this day, almost 3 years later, I still get notes from that family thanking me for being there. And just telling me how much it meant.
It takes practice. He doesn't call himself a musician. This is the only song he knows. He's a stranger to many resting here, but he honors each one, starting with that first note.
Welcome back. We often hear that veterans don't know what to do or where to go when they return home from service. So the West Virginia National Guard is helping to plant the seeds of success. That work is happening at a reclaimed coal mine. Sam DeCoste explains how a thriving apple orchard is helping veterans heal.
To me, I feel like we're giving back to the community.
For 22 years, John Higginbotham served on the Marine Corps. Now he supervises the Patriot Gardens Apple Project, a mission to reestablish apple orchards in West Virginia.
To me, this orchard, I feel like it gives something back, and recovering the land, providing a source of food and all that. So that part I especially like about it.
The West Virginia National Guard started the project in 2016 in Muddlety on a reclaimed mine site.
I mean, it was a pile of dirt, not hardly any topsoil in it all, and again, bringing the right things in to get the pH right. You know, we had to put lime down. We also have been bringing chicken manure from the Eastern Panhandle.
Major General William Crane says the project is all about educating and inspiring veterans and military families to make their own garden or sell the fruits and honey they grow as their own.
And we try to hand those opportunities off to a member of our One Guard family, whether that's a spouse or the military member. If they want to grow that, then we'll let them grow it and then they can sell it.
Once upon a time, this land I'm standing on was an abandoned mine, but after years of restoration efforts, it's now being used to jumpstart apple production once again here in West Virginia, here at the Patriot Gardens Apple Orchard. To help pollinate the land, there's also 70 active beehives at the garden. Soon, there will be up to 150.
PTSD is, sometimes really challenge people to work out, and just being out in nature and taking care of things, taking care of bees, taking care of trees is really beneficial.
Last year alone, the project transplanted more than 2,000 grafted trees and sold more than 1,200 pounds of produce. But their true mission is touching lives in the One Guard community and helping veterans like Higginbotham discover a new purpose after they return home.
But when you start looking at all the people that are involved with the project, there are hundreds and hundreds of people, and a lot of them veterans, that are involved with this. So yeah, that means a lot.
In Muddlety, Sam DeCoste, 13 News.
Coming up on Veterans Voices, the simple act of a hug can mean so much to a veteran. One teen in our region is making sure they know we're putting our proverbial arms around them, even when they're all alone. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Voices. One teenager is using her talents sewing gratitude one patch at a time. Pat Simon shows us how her sewing project is putting together a healing hug for a deserving and humble veteran.
18-year-old Paisley Tabor likes to sew.
I just like putting all the pieces together and getting an end product is like my favorite part. I hand stitched this red.
In fact, stitching is part of her family's fabric, inspired by her grandmother when Paisley was only 8. But most recently, Paisley's mom, Leslie, noticed quilting was not just tailor-made for her daughter. It became her patriotic passion project.
I think something sparked, and she said, you know, I could do that.
In January, Paisley's grandfather, a veteran, was honored with a quilt of valor, like a blanket hug of thanks for the brave.
I was really proud whenever I saw that, and I knew like I could use my hobby to contribute to something like this.
She does have a heart for veterans.
Paisley reached out to Mary Beth Shreve to join the Quilts Ministry at Maranatha Fellowship Church in St. Albans. And her first quilt of valor was impressive.
She did the whole thing. She did everything on that. I had her do everything on that quilt so that it really meant something.
Here's Paisley's creative creation.
Here's where it says respect.
Filled with words of thanks to a combat veteran she never even met.
We're hoping that they are thrilled with her product and will understand that a teenager spent a lot of time and put a lot of love into it.
I hope he likes my quilt.
The waiting recipient, Harold Orr, an Iraq War veteran and Purple Heart recipient, still feeling the scars of war that came home with him. But for one brief moment, on a special Sunday morning, healing came to Harold and other service members in the form of these blankets for the brave. One by one, members of the Church Quilt Ministry presented 29 deserving veterans with these quilts of valor. And then it was Paisley's turn to personally wrap her quilt of kindness around Harold's humble shoulders with sincere gratitude.
Thank you. I think it's really cool that we can honor our veterans who've sacrificed so much for our country through something like this.
You could feel the love in it that was used to make it, and appreciate it greatly.
Which goes to show.
Thank you.
A simple patch of cloth woven together with love by a teenager.
Oh, it's great.
Can go a long way.
It's great.
To heal the soul of a hero.
Quilts of Valor is a national organization. It was launched back in 2003 by a mother whose son was deployed in Iraq. To date, they've given away nearly 400,000 quilts to our deserving veterans. Our veterans are deserving of our gratitude each and every day of the year. And we thank you so much for spending some time with us and getting to know their stories. We also want to deeply thank our veterans for your dedicated service. It does not go unnoticed. Thank you for joining us.